The AP headline from last Thursday said it all. Quote, U.S. inflation highest in 40 years with no let-up in sight, end quote. With no let-up in sight. That's life in the Democrats' America. In January, U.S. inflation hit 7.5%, the highest inflation since February of 1982. Inflation's now been above 5% for the past 8 months. There are people raising families today who have never experienced this kind of inflation in their entire lifetimes. American families are hurting, Mr. President, hurting badly. The average American household spent an estimated $3,500 more last year as a result of inflation. $3,500. That's a lot of money for an ordinary family. A lot. Everywhere they turn, families are facing higher prices. Whether it's ground beef for the chili, bunk beds for the kids' room, or a new car to accommodate a new addition to the family, higher prices are the order of the day. The price of chicken is up 10%. Pork is up 14%. Beef roasts are up 19%. Eggs are up 13%. Citrus fruits are up 10%. Whole milk up 8%. And the list goes on. Furniture and bedding were up 17%. Major appliances are up almost 10%. Tires are up 14%. Used cars and trucks are up 40%. And then, Mr. President, there's energy prices. Fuel oil is up 46%. Gas prices are up 40%. Natural gas is up nearly 24%. And on and on and on. And predictably, Mr. President, inflation is having its biggest impact on those least able to afford it. A recent Penn-Wharton budget model study found that lower-income households, on average, faced an even greater spending increase in 2021 when compared to higher-income households as a result of inflation. It's no wonder that 69% of Americans disapprove of the President's handling of inflation. Mr. President, Democrats have talked about wage growth. Well, here's the story on wages. Despite wage growth, Americans received a de facto pay cut in 2021 thanks to inflation. Between January 2021 and January 2022, real average hourly earnings declined by 1.7%. A pay cut. So how do we get here, Mr. President? Well, obviously, the reopening of economies and supply chain issues have created inflationary pressures for the United States and countries around the world. But a big part of the reason things are so bad in the United States today is because Democrats decided to pass a massive so-called COVID relief bill last March that far exceeded anything the economy needed. That's right, when Democrats took office last January, inflation was 1.4%, well within the Fed's target inflation rate of 2%. And it might have stayed there had Democrats not decided that they needed to pass a massive and partisan $1.9 trillion spending spree under the guise of COVID relief mere weeks after Congress had already passed a major COVID bill, one of 5 COVID bills, I might add, that passed in 2020, all bipartisan. Mr. President, the definition of inflation is too many dollars chasing too few goods and services. And that's exactly the situation Democrats helped create with their so-called American Rescue Plan. They sent too many dollars into the economy, and the economy overheated as a result. And you don't have to take my word for it. Let me just quote a recent New York Times article. I'm quoting here, Mr. President. The United States has had much more inflation than almost any other advanced economy in the world, said Jason Furman, an economist at Harvard University and former Obama administration economic advisor. He used comparable methodologies to look across areas and concluded that U.S. price increases have been consistently faster. The difference, he said, This is Jason Furman, former Obama administration economic advisor. The difference, he said, comes because the United States stimulus is in a category of its own, end quote. Well, Mr. President, despite all of this, despite the fact that it was Democrats' massive March spending spree that helped plunge our economy into this inflation crisis, there are still Democrats out there who want to double down on the strategy that helped get us into this mess in the first place and pass yet another massive spending spree that would undoubtedly make this inflation disaster even worse. U.S. inflation highest in 40 years with no let-up in sight. With no let-up in sight. That was the headline, Mr. President. That's where Democrat policies have gotten us. I was actually pleased to hear this morning that